The attachment styles are basically there's four, and this is universal all over the world. The basically handbook Bible is this book called Attached by Amir Levine, is it goes into almost all the attachment styles. So we have securely attached, and that is about the statistics have changed, but it's about 55% of the population are securely attached. What that really means is that I am comfortable with being close with somebody and also being independent with them. I don't worry if the person that I'm in a relationship with, whether it's a friendship or a romantic relationship, is going to leave me, or if I'm worthy of love, or if I'm good enough. I'm generally well dispositioned in the fact that I believe that I want to love, and they do love me, and I feel secure in that. I'm not worried about the other shoe dropping at any moment, and I feel generally securely attached to people. Two,
Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio, podcast, and television show. I'm your host, life coach Myrna Young, and sitting in the guest chair today is Esin Pinarli, holistic psychotherapist. And Esin and I are going to be talking on the topic attachment wounds and their impact on mental health.
three.
Yeah, we have attachment wounds from our parents. We have
Mm-hmm.
attachment wounds from, the people that we got into contact with as we grow older. So yeah, this is a great topic, and I'm glad we're going to be exploring this conversation as it relates to our mental health. So welcome, Eason.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Nice to be on the show. I'm very excited and very passionate about attachment wounds because it's the driver for we are wired for connection in terms of being we are human social beings, and we have all the and you said something really great. You said attachment wounds that happen younger and midlife, older life, anything that happened in relationship, right? In a
Yes.
relationship, a primary caregiver, a friend, a romantic partner. A lot of people always kind of relate these attachment wounds back to it's just in childhood, and it's not. It goes throughout your whole life.
Oh, I know. As women, men hurt us as much as their parents.
Absolutely. And so people
Yeah.
are like, oh, that's coming from, the inner child, which is a big topic, right? Like
Right.
we all have younger parts of ourselves.
Hmm.
We develop, right? We become like you're like a boss, right?
Hmm.
And you have this successful podcast, and you're this self-actualized woman, and you developed all these other parts of you. But just like you and me, we have this little girl inside of us. And for men, they have these little boys, these younger parts inside of us that at some point in time were either betrayed or hurt or misattuned. Somebody was misattuned to them. They weren't seen, they weren't heard in that relationship. They might have gotten terrorized. They may have been left abandoned.
Yeah.
There was a breach of trust, right? And that creates a relational injury.
Right. Hmm.
And that, and
Okay.
and so men hurt women and women hurt men. If women are in a relationship with women, women hurt women, and women hurt, friends, romantic partners. But we are very much social beings, and these things leave imprints.
Yes, yes, that's great. I have a good information on that one when we get to that. But all right, so let me go ahead and formally introduce Eason to you. Eason is a psychotherapist, licensed clinical social worker, and a mastered certified addiction professional,
Mhm.
specializing in imago, brain spotting, internal family systems, psychodrama, And through an integrated psychotherapeutic approach, she also helps individuals, couples, and families suffering from anxiety, depression, addiction, codependency, trauma, dysfunctional family system dynamics, and attachment issues to navigate life challenges so they can become fully alive, supported, and whole. So yes, as you know, Esin started off by explaining, you know, which is our conversation today, attachment wounds and mental health and all that. But before we get into the attachment wounds, I wanted to set the table by understanding a couple of the therapies
Sure.
that Eason works with, which is the imago therapy and this brain spotting. Can you
Mm,
explain what these therapies do and how do they really address the root of our
yeah.
traumas or attachment wounds?
Yeah, absolutely. It's Essen. I know it's hard.
Okay.
And it's okay. I mean, I'm always get everybody's names wrong, like
Okay.
constantly. My name is like the hardest. But these modalities, so it most people I think when they think about therapy or healing or becoming a better version of themselves, they want to, fix. I don't even call it fix, heal, feel better, and address attachment wounds. People think of traditional talk therapy or talking to somebody, even our friends. We can talk to people and we can uh try to work something out and try to have a healing experience, right? If I had a friend that I had a very bad dynamic with where they hurt me, and I am now very cautious in entering friendships, and so I'm hesitant and I'm guarded. If I have an experience with a new person, I'm now storing a new experience into my body that I can be safe with another woman in a friendship, even though I was hurt before. So I got drawn into more than talk therapy. I did talk therapy myself. I originally started with like cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, which are just ways of talk therapy where you process something with somebody. I moved into the realm of what you are asking about, which is imago and brain spotting, because I realized that in order to move the needle or really help people, because I got the most help from it myself when I was going through my own struggles, I started to train in all of these other modalities that I felt like were really beneficial. And so imago, I use it a lot with couples. I use it with individuals. I use it with families. It actually stands for, in Latin, the image of unconscious love.
Wow.
So it basically is our below conscious awareness, what we think love is supposed to look like in a friendship, in a romantic relationship, love with a colleague, love with a parent. And so we have this template or this sort of paradigm that gets imprinted into us of what we think it's supposed to look like. And the first people that model it for us are our mother and our father. And
Hmm.
so we watch that dynamic and how do we connect with them? And so what Imago does is it's a way of, it's very attachment based. And so the root of it is that if we get wounded in relationships, we can heal in relationships.
Mm.
So therefore, if I have a couple coming in and I'm using Imago and I do a lot of couples intensives where I work with them, it's a dialogical process, which means I use dialogue to help two people get into each other's emotional worlds and understand what's triggering you, what's activating you, what is the core scene, what's the pattern that keeps coming up that creates conflict for you. And so the idea is that it's deeply relational, it's deeply dialogical, meaning dialogue based, and it allows for a healing, precious, sacred space of relating. And so what's beautiful about relationships is that they bring up the stuff that needs to be healed. You will never get more activated, anybody, human beings, than you do in a romantic relationship. I say it's a battleground on some level.
Hmm.
It's like you can feel deeply loved and seen and validated and heard and fulfilled, and also feel deeply wounded and hurt and unseen. And so, Imago is this ability, the modality is based on really kind of listening empathetically, compassionately, and witnessing the other person. So you're giving them a different experience than they got. So let's say I have a childhood wound of feeling abandoned. And abandoned doesn't mean my dad left me and my family when I was, a young girl and just took off. I could be emotionally abandoned. He could be watching TV and ignoring me, or silent treatment, or I didn't get enough attention, or if I was upset about something that happened in my life, I wasn't getting this attunement, right? There wasn't enough, it wasn't consistent. It was like sometimes they were there and sometimes they weren't there. So my body became sort of like hyper vigilant as to when's the next time I'm going to get attention. When is the next time that I'm going to be heard or seen or validated? And then on top of that, if I expressed my true feelings and it was met with rejection, disapproval, go to your room, they didn't acknowledge what I was feeling, and I was left, then I am going to choose attachment over authenticity every single day because I need them to survive. I need them emotionally, the parents, whoever your primary caregivers are, I need them emotionally and I need them in physical proximity to me. And so if I don't have that, I'm learning, oh, I better not talk like that. I better not share. I better not get upset. I better not yell. I better not scream, or I get rejected. I get misattuned, right? I, they're not listening to me. So then I'm going to change. I'm going to repress that part of myself. I'm going to push that part down and I'm going to do whatever it takes to please them because I need them to stay in connection. And unfortunately, that carries on through our adult life. And Imago says that basically romantic relationships are attempts to finish and complete our childhood in the way that we really wanted it to. So we're in some way subconsciously casting this person into a role in order to heal or to receive something that we never received before. And then all of a sudden, they don't even know that they're cast into this role. And then they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And then they trigger or activate us. But the trigger and activation is good in Imago because it shows the part that was emotionally abandoned, the part that didn't get what it needed, an unmet need, right? An unmet need. There was some need that didn't get met, and your partner's hitting it. Wonderful. Let's get to it. Let's hear your partner's world. When are on your phone when you get back from work, I feel ignored and dismissed, just like I did in childhood when my dad would ignore me. And then the partner
Yeah.
can now have more empathy and say, oh my God, that's not what I meant to do. I was just so busy with work or whatever. And that's the last thing I would want you to feel. But
Yeah.
what really happened there is that person got activated, but now we can introduce some compassion and we slow everything down because I get a very high conflict couples, right? If they would
Right.
just do A, B, and C, we'd be fine. They keep
Right.
doing this, and I'm like, but that wound existed inside of you. They're just bringing it up.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's really interesting because I'm reading this book right now from a monk, a French monk called Thich Nhat Hanh.
I
Thich
love
Nhat,
Dick. Not I
right, right.
love him.
Exactly. I'm always saying his name wrong. But yeah, so he was talking about the wounded inner child.
Yes,
And also talking about one of the best things that you can give your partner is your presence, deep
yes,
listening,
yes,
and it's really interesting because my husband would always say to me, "You're not listening." And I says, "I'm listening very well. I listen very deeply. I hear everything you're saying." But that is his favorite thing to do. So now I'm aware that he wants me to listen, right?
yeah, right.
So
And
it
where does
is,
that
it
come
is,
from? Where does that
yeah,
come
it
from?
is. What was that? And I'm
I,
I'm actually, even this morning, I'm sitting down and I'm listening, even though normally I would cut him off and says, "Get to the point." Because he goes around in a circle and like he's
yeah,
got ADD and he says, stick,
yep,
I said, stick to the point. Let's get to the point. You know what I
right.
mean? But I'm aware that what you're just saying, listening, and obviously we're coming from whatever he's needing me to do. And it's
Yeah,
always listening,
yeah.
and but I
And I
like
bet
to get to the point.
Yeah, but I bet you if you got down to the root of it, right? Like if I
Right.
had the two of you in there,
Yes.
there was somewhere where he didn't feel heard.
Right.
There was
Exactly.
somewhere where he was overlooked
Yes.
or he wasn't heard or valued or
Right.
considered, right? So his
Right.
inner child and
It is
and the
his
it is.
thing because he's always saying, "You're not listening to me. You read all these books and you pick what they're saying over me." I says, "Yes, because they're a doctor."
Oh, you're like, but I love you and I want to listen to you. And you made a great point, though.
Yeah.
Your presence
Yes.
as a partner is the best gift, attuning to him. And
Hmm.
even me as a therapist, the best gift that I can give my clients is complete presence and being
Right.
with them because there's
Right.
something so deeply healing
Yes.
about just being present. And but we have so many things going on, right?
Right.
And I
Right.
want to
Right.
read that book and it's like you're
Well,
going in
no,
circles.
I listen, what I do here is how I am. I love conversations. I listen very deeply. It came from my coaching training, but I like to give input. It's just like I'm talking to you now on the show,
Yeah.
and he doesn't want me to talk. He wants me to just listen, and I have to
Mhm.
learn to do that, you know. But anyway, so what we're starting off with, that is pretty good. You've
Yeah.
mentioned something that um, our inner child is like according to Thich Nhat Hanh, it's fearful, and the child wants to survive,
Yes.
and we need to talk to that child and says, I hear you, I'm here for you,
Hmm.
and yeah, but so you're right. A lot of people don't know that they can heal that inner wound themselves,
Yes.
but they look
Yes.
for attachment to do it, and that's basically what Thich Nhat Hanh was saying, is that a lot of people marry someone to take care of them because
Yes.
we wanted our parents to take care of us when we were
Hmm.
young and
Hmm.
to survive. And we marry people. So you're correct. We keep on going in this direction where we're needing other people to, using a word from the movies, complete us or whatever.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you're right. They normally come into this role and they don't know what we're asking them to do.
Hmm.
So that is great. I love that. I mean, I've heard of the word imago, but I never understood what it meant until now. So that is pretty good. And quickly, or
Yeah.
because that was a detailed answer. What exactly is brain spotting? How is that different?
So yeah, so brain spotting is a completely different modality. So it's actually it's called natural flow EMDR. So there's eye movement desensitization reprocessing, which is in nerd
EFT.
speak, yeah,
Yeah, right.
well,
Mhm.
no, not so EFT is tapping.
Right. Okay.
Emotion. This is eye movement desensitization reprocessing. It basically says where you look determines how you feel.
Mhm.
And if you eye movement back and forth creates access to different parts of the subcortical part of your brain, which gives you access to memories and feelings so that you can reprocess old wounds that are still creating an emotional charge in your body. And
Nice.
so it's a way of, and it's natural flow EMDR. So I'll do it with a lot of trauma clients who can't get unstuck through traditional talk therapy. And so what the brain spotting does is I'll have a pointer. It's a dance between me and the client. It's connection, it's attunement. I do a lot of what's called resourcing, which is I give them bilateral music, and bilateral music is basically specifically designed to go between the right and left hemispheres of our brain to create more brain synchronization so that we can feel more relaxed and calmer so that when we bring up an activating event, there's already regulation in the nervous system. I'm there. I'm a compassionate, empathic witness. I'm present. And I'm basically using a pointer back and forth as we bring up an activating event, something that continues to trigger you or awaken something in you. And we basically are doing what's called memory reconsolidation. We are taking the wounded, activated part and bringing it up in a safe setting with somebody present using eye movement. I find a brain spot and they find the brain spot. It's where they are the most activated when we start to discuss a topic. And the interesting thing is, I always start with low hanging fruit, as I call it. I don't want to go to a very big trauma and get so activated because I want to start out, I want to titrate. So, but what's interesting is your brain connects one thing to another, to another, to another. So, what you're nervous about or you're activated about is actually connected to something else. Like it could be like your fear of being seen, right?
Mhm.
And so you're nervous about a speech that you have to give. That ends up connecting all the way back to something because the bilateral music and the eye movement is being utilized. And all of a sudden, the stuff that comes out, and I use prompts, right? So the way you're trained is that there's certain prompts. I'm like, see where that goes. Just see what comes up and out of that. So between the music and the dance, between me and them, and me being present with them, and us locating a brain spot, the stuff that comes out from their subconscious, because what we think we know about ourselves and why we do what we do is only 3 to 6%. That's our conscious awareness. The
Yeah.
rest is below conscious awareness. And
Yeah.
so that's what brain spotting allows
Yeah.
more
People
subcortical
remember the
processing.
big traumas, but they're not aware of the little traumas. Like, the one that you just mentioned, your father says, um, like in the book, the guy was talking about a situation where he wanted people to reconcile with their parents. And this
Yeah.
one particular guy couldn't even write a letter to his dad because his dad traumatized him. And
Hmm.
he would say something as simple as maybe what you said. The father said, "Go to your room." You know what I mean? And you're right. You're not seen. You're not heard, or anything like that. So, but when they're in a having problems in a relationship or maybe having problems in life,
Hmm.
they don't remember it was that the father said, "Go to your room," right? Maybe they might
No,
remember a time they got beaten, or you're right, maybe the father left when they were six or something,
the
but it's
bigger
the small
trauma.
stuff, right? The small
Oh,
stuff, right?
it's chronic,
Right,
little chronic
right,
misattunements over
right,
periods of
exactly.
time and the emotional energy that your body holds.
Right, right,
And so brain spotting releases that emotional
right.
energy that your body's holding. You said it
Yes,
brilliantly. You said it brilliantly. People remember those significant, but there's so much that you don't remember.
right.
And it's not even about getting down to, that's the thing that I want people to know about brain spotting and these experiential, because they're like person to person, they're relational, they're concretizing experiences, not just talking about it, right? We're moving through it. I'm bringing up an emotion for you and helping you have a corrective experience.
Right.
And so it's about the feeling. It's about what it's holding in the body as opposed to not having to get so specific. Like I have to figure out what happened to me at 6 years old in order to untangle that knot so that I can now be free. No,
Right,
all I care about is what is the emotion that's coming up because we can
right.
release that and we can reprocess that memory or emotional charge and
Mhm.
store it into the body in a way where it's not triggering you anymore.
Well, that's amazing. So it sounds like both of these therapies that we're talking about here, the imago and the brain spotting, is pretty good therapies. Now, this is just for curiosity for
Sure.
me, why it is that people still do talk therapy. Other than I know that when you talk to someone, you feel better. Is there
Yeah.
anything more that happens to you with talk
Yeah, right.
therapy?
No,
Because it
that's
doesn't
a
seem
great
to
question.
get the
Yeah.
problems fixed.
Yeah. So there's, some people it works for in terms of this. If they've never had a secure attachment in their life, they've never had somebody that they've ever been able to like show all the parts of themselves, their insecurities, their fears, and all of a sudden this one person is like listening and present and they build this trust and this rapport with that person and they're able to sort of get out all of this stuff that it's been brewing out underneath it. It's not that there's no benefit to it, but you can't name it to tame it, and you can't always process. People are like, I'll just go talk to my friends about it, or I'll go talk to whoever about it, right? So you're asking an amazing question. It A lot of people still believe in that, and it is helpful to people. It's about what resonates individually. It's just that through my experience and through my own personal work, and whenever you train in any of these modalities, they make you do your own work on
Hmm.
purpose.
Hmm.
And so what I recognize is that there was just so much healing and it was quicker and the needle moved further
Yeah.
than these talk therapies. But some people are not ready to go there. Some
Yes.
people, it's like some people want fluff. Some people are like,
Yeah.
I just need somebody to vent to once a
Right.
week.
Right.
I feel
Well, that's
secure with that
basically
person.
what I thought that, for instance, I like to talk, and whenever I'm feeling, any kind of emotion or whatever, I talk and then I'm
Yeah.
good, right?
You
Because
feel
it's
good.
called
It's a
downloading.
release.
Right. It's called
Yeah.
downloading. But yeah, but if I had serious issues, I just don't want to download. I want to heal. So
Yes.
yeah, you're talking about this imago therapy and brain spotting and all the other things that we were talking about today. That is beautiful that we're highlighting this and letting people know that they can go deeper other than, just talking about it. All right, so
Absolutely.
let's talk about attachment styles now. So, um, uh, I have learned in my own little world,
Well,
it's
I can tell
probably
you're
wrong.
you're educated. No, you're an educated consumer. You read a lot. You're interested in people. You're interested in things. I can tell.
Right, right. So, I've learned, so thank you about that, is that and I've heard it from the negative. So maybe there's some positive. But I heard that, my husband was a police officer and he's saying, these women I get called for these domestic violence, and the woman feels that if their boyfriend doesn't beat her up, he doesn't love her. So that kind of attachment style. So so let's talk there about how we form attachment styles, and maybe I don't know if there's different kinds, so maybe
Yeah,
we can list them.
sure.
And like let's say the one that I mentioned, we feel that in fact you started off by saying that love looks to us a certain way. And
Hmm.
maybe for someone that's, messed up, they might think
Or
that if
grew up in a
right,
chaotic environment and saw a
right.
very, very volatile relationship. That's what love looks like.
Right, exactly. So if my boyfriend doesn't beat me up, then he really doesn't love me. So
Yes,
so if they have that kind of attachment style, um, uh, let's talk about that, number one. And number two is, can you help them, or any kind of therapist help them to rewire that?
absolutely. And that's the beauty of neuroplasticity, right? We have the ability to rewire regardless of what we're gone through. Our body is a self-protective mechanism that has this innate ability to heal if you give it corrective, reparative experiences. And so the attachment styles are basically there's four, and this is universal all over the world. The basically handbook Bible is this book called Attached by Amir Levine. Is It goes into almost all the attachment styles. So we have securely attached, and that is about the statistics have changed, but it's about 55% of the population are securely attached. What that really means is that I am comfortable with being close with somebody and also being independent with them. I don't worry if the person that I'm in a relationship with, whether it's a friendship or a romantic relationship, is going to leave me, or if I'm worthy of love, or if I'm good enough. I'm generally well dispositioned in the fact that I believe that I want to love, and they do love me, and I feel secure in that. I'm not worried about the other shoe dropping at any moment, and I feel generally securely attached to people. I can depend on them, they can depend on me. I'm able to give people space. I'm also able to independently function on my own. So that is the secure attachment, securely attached. Then the insecure attachment styles, there's three of them. There is anxiously attached, there is avoidantly attached, and then there's fearful avoidant. And fearful avoidant is the smallest amount. It's about 5 to 6% of the population. It's called disorganized. And I'll start with that one because it's a small one. And but it's a very confusing one because you basically flip-flop between being anxious and avoidant in the relationship. So basically, let's say you and I started dating, and you everything's going really, really well. And then all of a sudden, you're starting to get really close to me, and we're getting really close. And all of a sudden, it's too close. Now I'm not comfortable with the level of emotional intimacy that you and I have created because to my nervous system, that signals danger. That signals that if I get too close, I'm going to get smothered. If I get too close, you're going to leave anyway. So then I flip into being avoidant and I start pulling away from you,
Hmm.
even though everything's going great between us. And you're like, I thought we were getting closer. Well, my nervous system signaled danger because
Okay.
the attachment wounds get formed in the early formative primary years. How I attach to mom and how I attach to dad or your primary caregivers sets the tone. And so what it is were they consistent with me? Were they available to, meet my physical, emotional needs, or were they inconsistent? Were they sometimes there, sometimes not there? Were they a source of both comfort and terror? Usually, people who experience a lot of abuse or sexual abuse or have primary caregivers that are sources of both terror and comfort usually end up fearful avoidant. They're afraid that, so they flip flop between being, so the very thing they crave and desire, the emotional intimacy, is the very thing that also scares them. So they get close with you, they pull away. They get close with you. If you pull away and you match their energy, they get anxious, then their fear of abandonment kicks in. So it's this constant flip flop, right? So that's that fearful avoidant attachment style. Anxiously attached is they never feel like they feel they have to earn love. They feel that at any point, you can leave me, Myrna. Like at any point, even if things are going good with us, you're probably going to abandon me. Or if you really get to truly know me, I'm afraid you're not going to love me as much as I love you. And so I'm always looking for the other shoe to drop. I'm always worried about feeling abandoned. If I notice that your texting style changes with me, or I notice that you're a little distant, or
Mhm.
I notice that you're not paying as much attention to me, and the cadence of the rhythm of our relationship shifts even ever so slightly, I'm hyper vigilant and hyper attuned to you. And I'm like, are we okay, Myrna? Like, are you sure? Like, are we still close? I'm very worried about that, right?
Mhm.
Because I
Mhm.
was emotionally abandoned or my primary caregivers weren't there for me consistently enough that I had to be hyper vigilant. And hyper vigilant is what's called neuroception. And what that means in nerd speak is it's that it's this internal surveillance system it's basically detection without awareness. It's not about perception. It's a feeling of I'm always on guard and I'm searching, is it safe or not safe? Is our relationship safe or not safe, Myrna? Are you in? Are you out? Are you going to leave me? So I'm constantly worried about the other shoe dropping and I'm very anxious and I need a lot of reassurance and I need a lot of validation and I need to know that, you're not going anywhere. And through that, and all of these insecure attachment styles is to work towards becoming more secure attachment. And that's all the work that I do with people. And then the other one is avoidantly attached. And avoidantly attached is I don't know. So we had like 50 something percent of the world is secure, 5% is about fear, is fearful avoidant, 5 to 6% avoidantly attached. Let's split those up right now. And it's like half and half, right? And so whatever's the remainder, 20 and 20% of the population. And so the avoidantly attached people are interesting because they crave closeness, want intimacy, and are capable of it in the beginning, but there's an emotional threshold of intimacy that gets reached. When you get too close to me, I'm going to pull away, I'm going to withdraw, and it feels very, very dismissive and it feels very confusing to the other person. I thought everything was going good. What's going on? It's because they are not comfortable. Their trigger is too much closeness. Because in their formative childhood years, when they were close with somebody, they didn't get their needs met. They abandoned them. They left them on their own. And you know what they said to themselves? You can't depend on anybody.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
can't depend on anybody. And so I better take care of myself. And another
Right.
hallmark, like marker of an avoidant, is they're hyper independent.
Hmm. Okay. Well, wow. As you were going through them, that last one sounds like men. The one that's 5% sounds like women. So,
Yeah.
so do you find that a lot of these are like gender related more than the others? Because men normally, trust me, especially in the Black community, I don't know about otherwise, but
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
get too close to them, they're like want to push you away. You're
Totally.
smothering me. I
Yeah.
want, you're too needy.
Yeah. Too needy.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And they pull away.
Yeah.
So wow, that's interesting. So none of those were the ones that I thought is an attachment style when you're attached to people that abuse you. Where
Oh,
does that
that,
fit
well,
in?
that comes to, we always are going to choose familiarity over safety. So your
Okay.
nervous system will be attracted to and drawn to familiar. So if your
So is that
father,
part of any of the four that you mentioned, or
it's
that's
it's
something
it's
totally
not
different?
an attachment style. It's
Okay.
more about that
Okay.
you are basically trying to heal your childhood wounds.
Okay.
The best way I could sum it is to get somebody who's not good to you to finally be good to you. So you get
Mhm.
in that relationship that
Okay.
maybe that if that person that hits you or is physically abusive to you that you were drawn to finally will stop hitting you, it will heal the childhood wound of your father doing that to you.
Mm. That's
It will
interesting.
heal the child
That's deep.
it's all
Yes.
subconscious. It's all subconscious.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that's the predictor of that kind of childhood trauma is to get
Mhm.
a difficult person, whether that be abusive or toxic or unhealthy, to be good to you.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I need to perform to get love, or maybe if he or she stops hitting me, I will finally feel like I have completed that. It's called a childhood loop. I'll have completed that.
Mm. That's
So
interesting.
we will
Wow.
always pick familiarity over safety. So if I'm used to chaos and I was physically abused and I witnessed chaotic relationships, primarily with my mom and dad, I will be drawn to and attracted to men that represent that. Here's the other
Yeah.
interesting thing. You don't necessarily know right off the bat that someone is going to beat the crap out of you. You don't necessarily right off the bat know if they're abusive or not, right? Because people put on a good show
Hmm.
and they try to put their best behavior
But
forward. But what
yet, but
happens
yet you
is,
pick them because it's your aura. Is what are you
and
sending out? Yes. Yes.
it's called mirror neurons. Your
Yes.
body is sensing certain
Yes.
cues from that person that's very, very familiar. And so we will
Yes.
always pick familiar and then we'll call it fate. But
Yes.
it's not fate.
Or
It's like,
love.
or love, right? It's like,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
what you're drawn to because it's what
Yes.
you're familiar with. And your
That's
body
true.
considers familiar safe, ironically.
Yes, 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 yes. Wow. So that's good. Wow, we're getting a lesson here, Esin. Yes. All
Yeah.
right. So, so now that's attachment style. So let's talk about attachment wounds, which is basically our main topic today.
Yeah.
So, did we touch on that already? Because it seems like
We
we
did
went in deeply.
yeah, we
Yeah.
did. And the attachment wounding is really just any of the wounding that occurred in in a relationship with someone. So the what kind of wounding happened with you and mom? What kind of wounding happened with you and dad? If they weren't there for you, did they hit you? Was there physical violence? Was there, and these are attachment wounds in a relationship. And
Hmm.
so the attachment wounding can also happen in adulthood, like we talked about, right?
Right. Hmm.
Infidelity, betrayal, and so we're just like collecting these wounds and they're becoming embedded trauma inside
Hmm.
of us.
Hmm.
And so the attachment wounding is what creates your attachment style. Everybody has an attachment style, meaning, and also it you don't fit neatly into a box, but it does shift, meaning you could be more securely attached with friends, but anxiously attached in romantic relationships,
Hmm.
and,
Yeah,
or
because
vice
you're not worried
versa.
about friends leaving you. Who cares?
But there's oh no, there's friends who are very anxiously attached with friends, but very securely attached in romantic relationships
Oh, really? Huh,
because
that's interesting.
their attachment wounds and their attachment injuries were friends
From friends.
abandoning
Right,
them,
right, right.
or relationships going sour,
Okay.
or never feeling like they fit in, or never really having friends, or people never really accepting them. And so
Mm.
that's
Okay.
that's where that comes in, right? So all of that dictates how I behave, how I feel, and how my nervous system is going to react to connection. It's
Hmm.
all about
Hmm.
connection. Attachment wounding directs connection.
Right, right. So how does that translate into mental health? Like you talk about anxiety, depression, addiction, codependency, dysfunctional
Oh my God,
family
yeah.
system dynamics.
Yeah.
So those are all the mental health. So give us a scenario where I am anxiously attached and it affects my mental health. I
Oh my
think I
God.
know the answer to
So,
that already
yeah.
because I got
Well,
anxiety.
yeah. Well, you're going to be constantly, if you're anxiously attached, you're going to be constantly worrying. You're going to be
Right.
constantly hypervigilant. You're worried about
Anxiety.
being abandoned.
Right.
So all of
Right.
a sudden now my nervous system is completely dysregulated and I'm experiencing anxious symptoms. And my nervous system, I'm in the sympathetic part of the nervous system, which is fight, flight, freeze, fawn. My amygdala, which is the fear center, gets hijacked. Emotion, logic, reason out the window. I'm just like, I don't want to get abandoned. I'm so anxious. I want you to make me feel better. You need to connect with me again because without you, I feel like I don't have my bearings. Like, so I need the other person to soothe me. I need them to come back into connection with me to soothe me. So now anxiety, and then the anxiety can turn into panic attacks.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
stay dysregulated long enough, you stay
Mm.
anxious long enough in a relationship, you will start to get panic attacks. You get panic attacks long enough and you stay in this dysregulated state, you will get depressed.
Mm.
Your body is a self-protective mechanism. After a certain period of staying in that sympathetic arousal, anxious state, your body goes, alarm bell, warning, we need to shut down, operation shutdown. And it starts to literally depress all of your organs and your hormones because the cortisol and adrenaline that shoots out when you get
Mm-hmm.
anxious and you're
Mm-hmm.
worried all the time about the
Mm-hmm.
state of the union of this relationship or situation, your body then depresses everything. So because it's you can actually get chronically ill if you stay in a sympathetic
Mm-hmm.
state.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
in order to protect you, it shuts you down and then you get depressed. So
Right.
I always say they're friends. I always say they're kind of best friends. Anxiety and depression are best friends. They
Okay.
usually can go hand in hand. You stay anxious and dysregulated long enough, and
Yeah.
you stay in that sympathetic, you're going to get depressed.
Yeah. 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 So one of the questions I had here is so how which leads right into this is like how does a healthy brain oscillate between sympathetic and parasympathetic states to maintain equilibrium? So
Yeah.
in the securely attached relationships where you're not really worried if a person leave, if they leave, they leave, but you're securely attached.
Yeah.
Um, uh, how is your brain maintaining equilibrium there?
So there's a again nerd speak. There's a corpus callosum in the middle of your brain, and it's a branch that separates your right and left hemispheres, right? And so it's the vacillation between the right and left. The left brain is logical, pragmatic. It's able to reason. The right side is birthplace of creativity, emotion, and then there's a prefrontal cortex in the front, which is basically the emotional regulator, and it
Mm-hmm.
regulates you. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you're anxious and you're all right brain, which is all emotion and feelings and blah, 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 the prefrontal cortex goes offline. So that's like your emotional regulator, like they're off the reservation. That's saying that you're it's like the emotionally regulated tool that regulates you is offline. So a healthy brain vacillates between right and left or organically and engages in activities that strengthen that. So what I mean by that is parasympathetic activities. So
Mm.
parasympathetic activities would be, what do I do that puts my body into a state of being more calm, more
Right.
regulated, like, meditation, yoga, doing an experiential modality with my therapist, walking in nature, co-regulating with a friend, talking
Mm-hmm.
it out, you know, being in hiking, going to the beach,
Mm-hmm.
cold plunge. I'm a
Plunge,
big fan.
right.
I'm a big
Yes.
fan of cold plunge.
Yeah.
Your dopamine literally
Yeah.
goes up 350% and your norepinephrine goes up 250%. And all that means
Nice.
is you become more regulated, you become more calm.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more parasympathetic activities that you do and that you engage in, the more regulated your nervous system is. And the more that securely attached person oscillates between right and left and has a smoother transition and doesn't get stuck like a broken record on something.
Wow.
So the
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
the more parasympathetic, this is for everybody, no matter who you are, the more
Yeah.
parasympathetic activities that you do, and engage in. Even music. What kind of music do you like?
Hmm.
You know, what brings you joy? That's
Hmm.
parasympathetic. What brings you
Right.
joy? What makes you feel alive? What makes you feel passionate? What makes you feel connected? What makes you feel all of these things are so
Hmm.
parasympathetic stands for rest and digest. It's kind of,
Right.
you know, that feeling right when you're about to go to sleep and you're like feeling calm and you ate a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
good meal and you're
You get
watching a
into the alpha
it's the
brainwave states, things like that.
exactly
Yes, yes.
the
I
alpha,
do
right?
I do a lot of parasympathetic work. I walk every day in the park.
Yeah. There you
I do
go.
walking
Boom,
meditation. I do
boom,
laying meditation. I
boom.
read books. And this is therapeutic, having good conversations. I
Yeah,
love it.
I love engaging with you. Like, and so what happens is that even with me engaging with you right now,
Mhm.
different neurons are firing out and creating rewiring in my brain, connecting with you and learning
Yeah,
from you,
yeah.
and seeing a woman so interested in all of these things and being so curious and sharing your life and
Hmm.
your like it's lighting up a part of my brain that's
Yeah.
curious and
Hmm.
that is engaged and that because I'm curious like you. I like to know about people. I like to know about things. I like to know about
Yeah.
why do they do that? Why does that
Right.
person do that? Or what's going
Yes.
on over there? But
Yeah.
you already have that, right? And that's the other thing. Reading a book is a parasympathetic activity.
Yes. Yes. So
It
I load up,
is.
girl. I load up.
Yeah. Good for, I mean, and you know what I call
I load
books?
up.
I call books invisible counsel.
Yes, yes, I load up.
And
And trust
and
me, it
yeah,
has helped me with my connection issues too, because I stay calm, right?
yeah, yeah. No, you stay more
I
regulated. So
stay
you,
more
I mean,
regulated.
you
Yes,
essentially are like a model for Paris, like what I would try to teach my clients of like a life that's lived with many parasympathetic activities included
yes,
in it.
yes, yes. I load up. I load up. So that's amazing. All right. Well, I keep saying your name wrong, so I'm not going to say it again.
I'm gonna say it.
I
Ready? Essen.
Listen, right?
Yes.
Yes, I listen. I learned from you from the starting bell. When you were giving content, you were sharing with us. So this is amazing. So tell our listeners now about your business,
Sure.
Eternal Wellness Counseling.
Yes.
Sounds like you're pretty good. So tell our
Thank
listeners how they
you.
can connect with you, what your
Sure.
website is, your social media. I think we're
Absolutely.
already connected on social media. So yeah,
Yes.
tell our listeners where they can connect with you and where they can
Absolutely.
get involved in this imago therapy and
Yes,
brain
imago,
spotting
brain
therapy.
spotting,
Yes,
IFS,
yes.
whatever. And it's I'm very person centered, meaning like just because these are great modalities, they might not be the right fit for people, right? So I work with a collaborative approach with people. So eternalwellnesscounseling.com is my website. And so I have both a psychotherapy company and a coaching company. So I see people all over the world. And you can there's a submission in there if you want. I always do free consultations if anyone ever wants to work with me because I believe that you got to have a good fit. It's very, very important. It's very much a screening tool to see. And I often refer people out. I'm like, I have somebody that I think would be a much better fit for you, and I think people love that because I want you to work with somebody that's going to be helpful. And then on social media, I always get this wrong, but my social media handle, where I consider is a love letter to people by educating them for people who don't have, maybe might not be able to have the resources to go to therapy or whatever. I try to provide enough information on there. I have a lot of workbooks coming up that I'm going to give out for free, like an
Yes.
instructional manual of people's how they can work through some exercises somatically, do some gaze spotting and brain spotting on their own and things like
Oh,
that.
that's
So it's,
beautiful. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Hmm.
Esin. So it's Esin, Esin Pinarli, Pinarli underscore LCSW. And that's my Instagram account. And that's what I consider my love letter to sort of just continue to, I'm working on all these like things to just offer people that might not have the resources. Maybe plant a seed or something resonates with somebody that gives them, oh, I want to work on that, or that really helped me. And like, I always want to be able to offer that.
That's amazing. Yes, listen, you do good work. Now,
Thank
again,
you.
I'm glad you said I come from a curiosity space, but I do. So, a lot of insurance now are paying for therapy. Do you accept insurance?
I don't take insurance, but I
Okay.
do what's called a super bill. And I have to, and so what it is I have basically, I'm an out of network provider and I
Mhm.
am actually in network with Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Okay.
So I don't take the insurance, which is confusing. But what happens is people submit it, and I have to say, which makes me so happy, I've not had one client not get reimbursed.
Oh, that's beautiful. You see,
So
I come
you
from
know what?
curiosity.
Yes, and so
Yeah, because when
I
I was doing my talk therapy, it didn't help me, which is why I was able to zoom in on what you do.
yeah.
But yeah, my insurance was paying, I just had to pay copay. And that's really helpful.
And I fight with the insurance. Like I'll get on if they try to
Right.
like reject it. I'll go in. I'll get on the phone call with them. I
Right.
will, do an
That's pretty
appeal.
good.
And I have a
Yes.
so that makes me really happy because I'm really
Yes.
conscious of people's money, time, energy,
Yeah.
and I want to be able to do that. So I will get on the phone with the insurance companies. And I
Yes.
have to say that I'm very, very lucky and blessed that almost everybody has gotten compensated back.
Good job. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So you heard that, guys. There's no excuse. Yes. What Esin highlighted today was of a lot of things that we were not aware of, right? We know that we're not functioning at our highest level because we feel bad, right? Because
Yeah.
your feeling is letting you know that you feel bad. That's our modality, our feedback mechanism. So when you go to therapy, yes, you can talk about it and you feel better for maybe a few hours or something, but then you're really not,
Getting to the
getting
root
rid
of
of
it.
it. Right,
Yeah, right.
exactly. So,
Excavating it,
right, exactly.
releasing it. Yeah.
Right. So, this is an excellent, excellent way to start working on yourself. And like Eason said, if you follow her on social media, then she's got a lot of free resources. But definitely connect with her. I will have a summary of my conversation with Eason on the show page, which is myhelps.us. I will link out to our website, link out to our social media handle, so you can just go on there if you miss anything here, and click on it and connect with her. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. Again, this is like life school, not only for my listeners, but for me. And I learned a lot about how we come into a relationship,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
that was great for me. And
Yeah.
again, I was never aware of the attachment styles that you mentioned. I was talking when I talk about attachment styles, I was going for familiarity, because you're
Yeah.
right. A woman, I can only talk about women.
Of
A
course.
woman would be, they're saying, I'm attracted to the bad boy. I like bad boys, right? And what does bad boys do? Treat them like shit,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. Yep.
But that's what attracts them, right? And that's
Yeah.
because they're familiar. Yeah. So this was great. Awareness is the first step in
Oh,
change. So
that's the best that right there.
right,
Awareness is the first step. And
is the
that
first step.
is
Right.
amazing. And that
Mhm.
brings you so many different places. Awareness.
Yes. So that's
Awareness
basically what we did.
and yeah, and curiosity. And
Yes.
curiosity is
Hmm.
and compassion.
Right. Yes. So
Compassion for yourself.
yes. So, right. So, we brought the awareness to our listeners about, the depth of how they can help themselves. So,
Yes.
I am very grateful for a conversation.
Same.
It was great. I learned a lot. And yeah, I'm gonna check because I'm already connected to you on Instagram. So I'm
Absolutely.
gonna check for your free resources,
Yes.
can help
Yep.
me.
A lot of them are a lot of them are coming up. If you go on my website,
Right.
there's one available on my website if you like put your information in, and then there's
Okay.
like two more coming out in the next 2 months. And it's
Okay.
very like I try to make it a little bit more digestible in
Mhm.
terms of like here are the actual tools and the somatic principles that you can incorporate into your life that you can
Yes.
create more regulation in your nervous system, whether you're feeling anxious, whether you're depressed, whether you just don't feel the best version of yourself, whether you feel burned out, whether you feel whatever it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
All right, so we are fresh out of time. So as we wrap up, any last words?
No, just thank you so much for having me on. I hope I was of service and that your
Yes.
listeners resonated. And I loved having a conversation. I'm also I love talking. So I love connecting with different people. And I love that we have this opportunity to have a conversation and to connect. And you're so lovely and engaging and just your curiosity. I think I could just feel your curiosity.
Yes, well, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a great conversation, and I'm coming out ahead of where I came in. So, listen, thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode of Transform Your Mind so you can transform your life. Today, we're talking about attachment styles, attachment wounds, and I hope that you got a lot out of this conversation because I did. So, thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, namaste.
Namaste. Love it. I'm a yogi too.